This case is now headed to a grand jury. That's not speculation. That's not a former judge's opinion or a family's hope. That's what the Jackson County District Attorney's Office told Nolan Wells' parents directly in a meeting this week, that once the investigation is complete, everything gathered will go in front of a grand jury. But in that same meeting, something else happened, something that could shape what the grand jury eventually sees. The family's attorney agreed to a joint side-by-side examination of Nolan's phone, the one piece of evidence this case keeps coming back to. We'll get to exactly what that inspection means. First, what actually happened in that room with the DA. Quick ask before we get into it. If you've been following this case with us, hit subscribe and drop a like so more people see these updates as they come in. Now, here's what changed this week. On Wednesday, Christine and Elmore Wansley sat down with Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McIlrath alongside their legal team. Attorney Ben Crump described it afterward as a very respectful meeting, but respectful didn't mean resolved. The family says they didn't come away with any new information about what actually happened to their son on Horn Island. What they came away with was a process. The DA's office confirmed that once local investigators finish their work, the findings will be handed to a grand jury. Not a press conference, not a public statement from the sheriff, but a formal legal body that decides whether charges are warranted. That's a materially different path than where this case started, back when the sheriff's department was still calling it a suspected accidental drowning with no evidence of a crime. It doesn't mean charges are coming. A grand jury can hear evidence and decline to indict, but it's the clearest sign yet that this case is being treated as more than a closed file. And it's the first time investigators have put an actual mechanism on the table instead of just a status update. That wasn't the only agreement to come out of Wednesday's meeting. Crump confirmed that the family and investigators agreed to a mutual inspection of Nolan's cell phone, meaning experts working for the Wells family and experts working for the state will examine the device side by side, rather than one side handling it alone and reporting back. Attorney Eric Hertz is helping lead that side of the investigation for the family. To understand why this matters, remember what's already been asked about that phone. Ben Crump has said for weeks that the family located Nolan's phone themselves using a location tracking app rather than being told where it was. Carlos Moore, the former Mississippi judge who went on record with his own read of this case, has pointed to that same phone as the basis for what he believes is an already provable theft charge, built on a video where a voice widely believed to be Nolan's says, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing?" That phone has effectively been evidence, family suspicion, and legal argument all at once. A joint inspection is the first time both sides will look at the same device, the same data, at the same time, which means whatever comes out of it, neither side can credibly claim the other tampered with or mishandled it. That's not a small procedural detail. In a case already this fractured on trust, it may be the only thing both sides can agree actually happened fairly. But not everything circulating about this case has been handled with that same care. Crump used part of Wednesday's press conference to push back directly on the flood of unverified claims spreading online. He didn't validate the videos and theories multiplying across social media. He asked the public to slow down. His message was direct. Keep an open mind until the actual facts come out. That warning exists for a reason we've mentioned before, and it's worth repeating plainly here. Unverified clips connected to this case have already led to innocent people being wrongly identified online, real people with no connection to what happened to Nolan, dragged into a tragedy that isn't theirs. A commentator covering the case separately noted the conspiracies swirling around it are making a lot of noise that has nothing to do with the actual confirmed timeline. We're going to keep drawing that line clearly every episode, because it's the difference between covering a real investigation and feeding a rumor mill. What we can tell you, on the record, is what investigators and the family's own attorneys have actually said, starting with who's now involved. The FBI has confirmed its own role in writing, stating plainly that it has been ready to assist Jackson County investigators from day one, and that federal resources remain available if local investigators request expanded support. That's not the FBI announcing it has taken over the case. It's the FBI going on record that it's already involved in a supporting capacity, which is a meaningfully different thing than the picture 2 weeks ago, when this was described as a purely local investigation. Layer that against everything else already on the table. Carlos Moore publicly asking whether the DOJ's Civil Rights Division should get involved. Ben Crump raising the same question about the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, a sheriff's department that has shifted from no foul play suspected to confirming formal interviews and a grand jury pathway. None of these are separate stories anymore. They're the same pressure, showing up from federal law enforcement, from the family's legal team, and now from the DA's office itself. And all of it is happening while the Wells family is doing something no parent should have to plan in the middle of an active investigation. Nolan's homegoing celebration is set for Monday, July 20th at Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs. Visitation runs from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., followed by the funeral service. The Reverend Al Sharpton has agreed to officiate. Tyler Perry is covering the cost of the services, a fact the family's attorneys made a point of publicly thanking him for on Wednesday, alongside Colin Kaepernick, who helped fund the independent autopsy being conducted in Washington, D.C. Afterward, instead of a traditional gathering, the family is holding a repass celebrating Nolan's life at the Jackson County Fairgrounds. Former teammates from both his high school and middle school playing days have been invited alongside family and close friends. It's a detail that tells you something about who Nolan was without anyone having to say it directly. A room full of people who knew him as a teammate first, long before any of this. Crump said Wednesday that he expects preliminary findings from the independent autopsy very soon, likely landing after the family has had the chance to bury their son, not before. Here's exactly where this case stands as of this recording. Nolan Wells was last seen alive around 3 p.m. on July 4th on the northwestern tip of Horn Island, telling his friends he'd catch a ride back with someone else. A National Park Service ranger found his body in the water off that same stretch of coastline 2 mornings later. Cause of death has not been determined. Both a state autopsy and an independent autopsy remain pending, with preliminary results expected soon. The Wells family has met directly with the Jackson County District Attorney. That office has confirmed the case will go to a grand jury once the investigation concludes. A mutual side-by-side inspection of Nolan's phone has been agreed to by both the family's legal team and investigators. The FBI has confirmed its own standing role supporting local investigators. And a former judge, a sitting judge connected to the case, a crowd of hundreds in Ocean Springs, and now the DA's own office have all, in their own ways, signaled that this is being treated as something far more serious than an accidental drowning with no further questions attached. No one has been charged. No one has been named a suspect by law enforcement. That distinction still matters, and we're not going to stop repeating it because it's the exact thing that separates a real investigation from the noise surrounding it. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old who baked his parents' salmon the night before a holiday, told his mother he loved her, and went out on the water with friends the same way thousands of other teenagers did that same afternoon. On Monday, his family buries him, still without an answer for how he died, but now with a grand jury pathway, a mutual phone inspection, and federal law enforcement all somewhere in the process of getting them one. A quick note before you go. This case involves details some viewers may find disturbing, including a young life lost and unresolved questions around how. If you'd rather not continue, we understand completely. If you're still with us, subscribe so you're here the moment either autopsy result drops, and let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching this from. We'll bring you the facts the moment we have them, and not one moment before.